Ever feel like you're going in circles trying to find information about your owner's corporation?
Yeah.
Like something simple, just how to contact the other owners in your building.
It comes up more than you'd think.
Seriously. You'd think that'd be easy to find out, but it turns out it's this whole legal thing, at least here in Victoria.
It's a lot more complicated than it seems on the surface.
So today, we're doing a deep dive into those owners corporation records, specifically the contact details. Like, what are the rules? Can you get them, or are they top secret?
Well, you got to think about it, right? Owners corporations, they have to keep all sorts of records.
True.
Some are obvious, like minutes from meetings, the financial stuff.
Yeah, the things you would expect to be public.
Exactly. Basic transparency. And then there's this thing called the Owners Corporation Register. That one's important because it's got everyone's names and addresses, which, as an owner, you're allowed to see.
Right, that makes sense. So far, so good. But then, didn't things change back in December of 2021?
You're on top of it.
Well, kind of. I just remember hearing about it.
Right, yeah. That's when they made phone numbers and email addresses officially part of those records.
Oh, okay. So everything's out in the open now.
Well, that's where it gets tricky.
Oh.
They added them to what needs to be kept, but didn't exactly clarify if any owner can just see them.
Huh. So is it like they're available or not?
Exactly. It's like ingredients for a cake. They're all there, but nobody said you actually have to, bake it.
Okay, so we've got transparency, but what are we actually doing with it?
It's the big question, isn't it? And people have some strong feelings on both sides of this.
Let's get into it then. What are the arguments for keeping those contact details, well, private?
Picture this. You buy an apartment and suddenly anyone in the building, for any reason, can just get your phone number or your email.
Yeah.
Some people find that a bit much,
It's like a digital phone book with no privacy settings.
Yeah, and not everyone's okay with that level of access.
Makes sense. It's your personal information.
Exactly. It's about having some control over your digital life.
Right. So this wouldn't fall under those big privacy laws, would it? The Commonwealth one.
Probably not. Most owners' corporations are too small for that.
Oh, okay.
So it's this weird gray area.
So we're in uncharted territory when it comes to privacy in these situations.
It's specific to this kind of community, which is what makes it so complicated. It's not a simple yes or no answer.
So it's tricky, this whole privacy thing. But then there are times you'd really want to be able to get in touch with your neighbors.
Totally. Think about it. What if there's some emergency, like a pipe bursts, or something happens with the security of the building?
Right.
You'd want to be able to reach people, share information quickly.
It's not like you have time to dig through old records for an address.
Exactly. You need to connect with people fast. And even beyond emergencies, sometimes you just want to actually talk to your neighbors,
Yeah, build a bit of community.
Exactly. Organize a working bee, start a book club, just get to know the people you're living so close to.
So how do we balance that need to connect with the whole privacy issue? It feels like we need a middle ground here.
You're spot on. It's the big question. And that's where some interesting ideas come into play. One that's been floating around is this prescribed fee system.
Prescribed fee. Okay, what's that?
Basically, owners could ask for contact information, but they'd have to pay a small fee to get it.
Interesting.
And this fee would have to make sense, not some huge amount, maybe set by like a regulatory body.
So it's like recognizing that, yeah, this information has value, but it's not free for anyone to just grab whenever.
Exactly. It's a way to
Right.
stop people from just like snooping for no reason, but it still lets you get the information if you genuinely need it.
And maybe that fee could even go back into the building fund.
Right? Now you're thinking. It could be a win-win for everyone.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
But is that even something that's on the table right now? Like, is there an actual answer about how this is all supposed to work?
Well, get this. There are actually a bunch of cases going through VCAT right now, the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, they're trying to figure out exactly how this contact information thing should work.
So everyone's waiting to see what happens with those cases?
Big time. Whatever they decide will be a big deal for owners corporations everywhere in Victoria.
But here's the thing I find really interesting. It's not like everyone has to wait for VSAT to decide, right?
You're right. You're onto something there.
Each building can make its own rules, can it?
Exactly. At least until VCAT comes out with those rulings, each owner's corporation has the power to decide for themselves.
So it's like each building gets to have its own mini debate about this whole transparency and privacy thing.
Exactly. It's like their own little democracy. And that's why understanding the arguments is so important, Whether you're for or against sharing contact info, you need to be able to explain why Maybe even convince your neighbors.
So being informed is key. Knowledge is power, right?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Okay, so we know VCAT's got some big decisions to make. What should our listeners be thinking about while we wait for those rulings? And we're back. We've been talking all about those owners corporation contact details, wading through the legal stuff and those privacy concerns.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. But let's say, just for fun, that getting those contact details does get easier in the future. How do you think that would change things in an owners corporation?
That's an interesting one. I think on the one hand, you could see a lot more owners getting involved.
Really? Why do you think that?
Well, if it's easier to get in touch with each other, people might actually talk about building issues more, share ideas, you know?
Yeah, instead of just complaining to the Strata manager, they could actually talk to their neighbors about it first.
Exactly. Resolve things directly.
Yeah.
Imagine you could rally support for some new project or finally find someone who agrees with you about that.
About that terrible elevator music.
Yes, exactly.
So it could really boost that sense of community, actually being able to connect with the people you live with.
Definitely. But of course, there's two sides to every coin.
What's the downside here?
Well, think about it. More contact could also mean more conflict.
Oh, right. Like what?
What starts as a little disagreement about, say, pets in the elevator could turn into this whole email war if everyone has each other's contact info.
Oh, I can see it now. Reply all chaos.
Exactly. Suddenly you're getting CC'd on every little complaint about noise or whatever.
And people trying to start group chats or newsletters that nobody asked for.
It's a recipe for information overload, for sure.
So it all comes down to being responsible, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Just because you can contact someone doesn't mean you always should, you know?
Right. Respecting boundaries is key, even when you live in close quarters.
Exactly.
So it really could go either way. More connection, but maybe also more drama.
It's that classic double-edged sword.
Well, there you have it, listeners. That's a lot to consider, right? These VCAT cases, they could really change how things work in owners corporations down the line.
Absolutely. Those decisions will be a big deal.
But until then, it's up to all of us to, actually talk about this stuff.
Definitely. Figure out what works for your building, for your community.
Because at the end of the day, an owners corporation, it's more than just rules and regulations, right?
Totally.
It's about people figuring out how to share a space, share resources, and, yeah, even share information in a way that works for everyone.
Well said. Finding that balance, that's what it's all about.
On that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of owners corporations and contact details.
Thanks for joining us.
We hope you learned something new today. Until next time.